link, and I'm going to just go over a couple things that buyers really need to know right now, just in general, and then things that are specific to what's happening in the mortgage industry and real estate industry right now during the this pandemic we're having. It's affected quite a few things on the mortgage side of things, as far as people being able to qualify, what credit score minimums are, and that sort of thing. So up until about a month and a half ago, the credit score minimums for a loan were around 580. So basically anything over 580, if someone had a decent job, decent assets, they could pretty much be able to buy a house. Right now, that's been bumped up to 620 for some lenders, and even 660 or 680 for other lenders, and that is something that's really, really important. So whatever lender you're talking to, you need to ask them if their credit score minimums have gone up over the last couple of weeks, and if they haven't, what their expectation might be about that happening, because this is unfortunately not something that's going to go away anytime soon. These credit score minimums are probably going to stay this way or go higher, quite honestly. And the reason for that is the investors who buy mortgage bonds are fearful of the losses they're going to have when all these people start going into forbearance, probably starting on Friday.
Yeah.
With the federal government giving people the go-ahead to go ahead and miss payments with no repercussions, what they're forgetting to tell people is that all that money is going to come due down the road in one lump sum or phased in, and it's going to be a show later. Let's put it that way. It's going to be bad. One other thing that came up in another webinar I did recently was the stimulus package that was passed, where people are getting stimulus money based on family size, and that money people can use for a down payment and or closing expenses on a home. So if someone were short of funds or wonder where their down payment is going to be coming from, that money can be used for purchasing a home or closing costs. I had gotten that question about whether people could do that or not, and the answer is yes. Speaking about down payments, the minimum down payment for most loans is going to be 3% on any property.
3?
Yeah, we can do conventional loans with 3%. It's called a Home Ready product, and it's designed for first-time home buyers that have at least a 640 credit score. It's a great product right now, and it's way better than FHA. FHA loans, which have sort of been the industry standard for first-time home buyers and typically for lower-priced homes, has always had just a minimum 3.5% down payment, which it still does, but the what's called the pricing on those loans has gotten more expensive because investors are considering those to be a lot riskier loan right now. So that conventional loan is a much better deal. Now, if someone's a veteran or buying a home out in the country, they can still purchase with no money down, which is a fantastic opportunity for people who are eligible for it. Another question that we get a lot is when someone should actually talk to a lender about getting a pre-approval. If you're someone who's thinking about buying a home this summer, then right now is when someone should be visiting with a lender to talk about whether they qualify, and if they don't qualify, to get them in a position where they can qualify later. So where we're running across this a lot is if someone right now has, say, a 610 credit score, generally the reason being is they've got debts that are relatively, or I should say balances that are relatively close to the limit on credit cards. And that's actually the easiest problem to solve to get someone's credit score higher. So if someone's planning on buying in 3 or 4 months, now is the time they need to be talking to a lender about getting fully approved for financing. Talking to a lender 30 days before you need to move is too late, unless everything's just absolutely perfect. You need to do some planning on that. Any questions on that real quick before I go on?
Scott, do you mind repeating some of that? Tell me the reason again, why that's going to change as far as somebody who's wanting to buy in the next 3 to 4 months, why they need to be talking to that lender now. Tell me why you said that.
Sure. So the primary reason is just to make absolutely certain that when the lender pulls credit, that there's nothing on that credit report that's going to cause an issue for that person 3 months from now.
Okay.
Because if there is something on there, 3 or 4 months is usually enough time to get a problem solved to where that report will update in that amount of time. So in other words, if someone has a lease that's expiring at the end of August, for example, right now is perfect because if they got a lower credit score, there's plenty of time to get that problem solved.
I see.
Yeah, and still qualify later. Something else that's coming up a lot right now is the question about job history, in the fact that there's so many people right now that are being affected by the pandemic as far as their jobs are either they're furloughed or they've been laid off completely and they're on unemployment. The question I get is how soon after someone goes back to work can they be approved for financing? And the answer actually is right away. If they're a W-2 employee, if they're paid hourly, salary, if they go back to that same job, all we're going to be doing as a lender is verifying that their employment is now current, that they're at the same amount of pay that they were before, and we're just going to move along. So as soon as they go back to work, they're going to be fine. There's not going to be a 60-day waiting period or anything like that. So they're going to be totally fine on that.
What about people that were under contract and then were furloughed but are closing like later this month?
Okay, so they're currently furloughed right now. Mm-hmm. That's probably going to be a big issue. If they're furloughed and still getting, are they furloughed and still getting paid anything, or are they just completely out?
I don't even know.
Okay. So
give me both options.
Okay. So if they're furloughed right now with no pay, they can't qualify. Okay. Mm-hmm. The lender's not going to be able to close that while they're furloughed. Now, if they are furloughed, but they're getting maybe 80% of their regular pay, the lender can still qualify them based on that 80% number, whatever that may be. And if that's enough for them to still qualify, they're going to be fine.
Right.
Other than that, they're going to have to wait until they go back to work at their normal rate of pay.
Are you running into that? Like, you do all that stuff up front and then people let you know closer to closing and then the whole thing's put on hold?
I have had that happen where we've had someone that is under contract and now they're temporarily off work, so we've had a closing get delayed for that. Right. Is that what you meant? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's a real thing. When you get 26 million people unemployed in the course of a month, you're going to have people that have houses under contract that all of a sudden now they can't close.
Right.
So now, fortunately, vast majority of those people, are going to be going back to work, probably within the next month, maybe 2 months tops. You hope anyway. So right. They'll be fine. But right now, yeah, it's a problem. So any questions on that before I kick it over to Amanda and let her tell all about the real estate side of things?
I have one more question.
Okay.
Are appraisals coming in low right now?
I've had 2 this week already.
Low, underappraised, or?
Yeah. Now, one of these, in Amanda, you and Debbie can explain to me why a realtor would do this. But I've got the buyer, obviously, and then I'm dealing with the buyer's agent on this. So they wrote a contract on a house. It was like $299.9 or something like that. We get the appraisal back just the other day. It came in at $275. I'm like, wow. You expected an appraisal coming in for a couple thousand less. That's not terrible. That can happen. But $20,000 less, that's pretty significant. And
was it new build?
What's that?
Was it
Did
a
they
new
do a drive-by, or did they do a drive-by appraisal, or did they just, because I'll share an experience when it's my turn, but I don't want to jump in there. But in that situation, Scott, did they do a drive-by or did they actually go in?
That was a full inspection. Yeah, they did the whole thing. And but here's what made me scratch my head is the agent that I'm working with. She said, "Oh yeah, the listing agent told me that they knew it was overpriced and just wanted to see what was going to happen." I'm like, so you're okay with pretty much wasting everybody's time here? Because if the seller's not willing to take what it's really worth, I mean, what was the whole point? But so why would an agent do that? I mean, why would they know going in that there's going to be a problem later?
You want me to answer, or do you want to answer, Debbie?
Take it.
Okay. Some sellers are completely unrealistic when it comes to listing their house. Like we'll show them everything. All right, right. So sometimes we'll pass them on to somebody else, and sometimes we take the listing and kind of come up with a plan with them. But if they get the house under contract, they're going to be thrilled. As a realtor on the buyer's end, we're telling people, hey, you're not going to have to buy this house for more than the market value is. And so we explain the whole appraisal condition that's in the Oklahoma contract. And if appraisal comes in under purchase price, the buyers can still walk and get their earnest money back. So they're out inspection, out appraisal, but usually that seller is going to have to lower the price. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to sell the house, because that appraisal is good for what, like 6 months? Is that right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
FHA
So,
9.
so say they like drop the contract and they get another buyer, same thing. They're not going to be able to sell it unless it's a cash buyer, or unless somebody is willing to pay the difference, which most people aren't, because they don't want to overpay for a house, unless it's like their dream home, and then more power to you, you know?
I had a situation just in the last couple of weeks. It was for sale by owner. I represented the buyer, and it was really hard neighborhood to comp, because it's older homes, and you don't really know until you've been inside those homes which have been updated, had big investments made in them, and which ones have not. But we negotiated a price, and then the appraiser does a drive-by appraisal, and it came in, I want to say it was about $30,000 difference. I mean, it was huge. So the seller, of course, sends me comps that are, these are the comps he had used. He sends them to me. Well, they weren't even in the same neighborhood. The age of the home wasn't the same. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't really use those. But I did talk to the lender, and I said, I just feel like with such a discrepancy, we have to have more than a drive-by at a minimum. You can't. So anyway, and they said, well, we can do another appraisal, but it has to be at the buyer's expense. And I argued that. I'm like, I don't think that's fair to the buyer. And so you wonder in that situation, did the appraiser actually even do a drive-by, or did he just maybe look at some past history of that house and make some assumptions about the neighborhood and just about that house in general? In the end, the lender did agree to send that same appraiser back, and he went inside and appraised. And it was sort of funny, because I was like, now I started crawfishing a little bit with that appraiser. Like, we don't want it to come in just real high. But anyway, long story short, we got the price where we felt like it needed to be. But that was the first time I'd ever had that experience where they did it just supposedly by driving by, and that was all due to the COVID situation. So.
And that's
Go ahead, Amanda.
That's what they're all doing right now, right?
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is that what's supposed to happen is the appraiser is still required to do an interior inspection unless the seller is, the seller has officially said nobody's coming in the house.
Right.
The lender can't just say, oh, we're just going to do a drive-by and everything now because we can.
Right. And that's why, and that was certainly, that's what the lender was trying to say to me. And I go, well, listen, I'm in touch with the seller. It's a by owner, and he's begging for them to come in because first of all, it's going to affect him the most. And I'm like, inspections were done by drive-bys. We actually had to go in. In fact, it makes no sense to me that the appraiser would have to stay outside the house unless, Scott, to your point, that was the seller's demand. That's a different deal. But
it sounds like it wasn't. It sounds like they're just being lazy, quite honestly.
Right. Well, now they kind of have a green card to do that if they want to.
Yeah.
But it can
yeah.
Well, Amanda, share your wisdom.
All right. Well, you guys all know me, so I'm not going to go into like the whole who I am thing, but I did pull up some information about the market today that I want to share. Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh, I just hit my knee. Did you guys hear that? All right. So these charts are taken from Oakmar, and some of them are from NAR, but this is from the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Association of Realtors. And this just shows the number of sales in 2020 from year to date. So the beginning of the year usually is a lot slower, and then March things pick up, and then usually we see like a slowdown around October. It all varies a little bit from month to month. But you see that we got to like mid-March and then started going down. And this shows the 2019 month-to-month sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were a little bit higher in March this year than we were last year, but then between April and May was the biggest peak. And so right now, that's where we've gone down. I would assume that when things start going, our big peak is still going to come. It's just going to come a little bit later. This shows 2020 year to date, the number of new listings from January to April. And then this shows from March to May. So obviously, beginning of March, and keep in mind, we're not even to May. That's why this is like falling off the planet altogether. And if we did this whole thing on May 1st, I'd be able to show you so many more like stats from April, but this shows you that obviously we did have a major decline, and the numbers that I'm seeing around Oklahoma mainly are like mid-February is when things really started going down.
Don't you think, the number of homes coming on the market for May, June, do you expect that to spike?
I think so.
I think so too.
And I'll show you kind of what's going on nationally at the end of this, but I definitely think that that's going to spike, and I think it's going to start increasing really soon. I mean, I would say next week if I were to get more homes on the market. Obviously, that was listing. This is sales declining. Mm-hmm. And then this is the last 7 days in just Oklahoma City and Edmond. That's where I work mostly. So you can see that there's still a lot of activity going on. I haven't talked to any agents that have not been busy. I've been busy this last month, and I feel like a lot of people that have been looking, Oklahoma, and Debbie, you can chime in here too if you want to, but in the last couple of years, houses under $250,000, like in the first-time buyer market is kind of what we call that, have been going immediately, like very short days on market, lots of multiple offers coming in. And so the people that have been looking for those houses and just haven't been able to find one, I have a couple of buyers in that category. They're all under contract right now because since everyone else is slowing down, it's actually a great opportunity for some people that really need a house in a really busy, hard to get marketplace to get one. Over $250,000 there's kind of a bridge, like 250 to 400 is a little bit slower. And I would say 400 and above has slowed down. And the days on market is higher just generally than that other category. This shows Oklahoma City and Edmond in the past 30 days. So we've had like 1,791 new listings. The median price there is $309,000, which is pretty high, because the average sales price around here is usually a little bit under $200,000, just for like Oklahoma County as a whole.
That's crazy. That number is crazy.
Right. So that is high. That shows that there's luxury listings going on the market. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with the oil in Oklahoma. Pending, there's a whole lot of pending still. So this is all just in the last 30 days. And if you think about that, 30 days ago was end of March. That was when Oklahoma really started shutting down and sheltering in place and taking COVID-19 more seriously. But you'll see out of those pending that the median price is in that sweet spot where the houses are going so quickly anyway. And then sold 644, and that sell price, median price, is very close to the pending, which tells me that it's kind of in that same price range. And then off the market, withdrawn and released in all of Oklahoma City and Edmond, there's only 299 in the last 30 days. So I think that's interesting. I was afraid when this all started that a lot of people would be putting their listings on hold. My listings are still in the market. I haven't withdrawn anything. I think that there are people that planned on listing their house that is waiting a little bit, like we just talked about. But I think all of those are going to push, and there's definitely homes on the market for people to see. Nationally, it sounds like the NAR and coast to coast, East Coast and West Coast specifically, they're saying things have started to turn around this week. And Zillow reported on April 22nd, traffic has since been picked up, outpacing or remaining just a few percentage points behind 2019. And that's talking about viewings on the Zillow site. So according to Zillow, starting I think April 12th is what they said, people are looking online basically as much as they were this time last year. Also, we know a lot of people are stuck at home and just looking online.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting and good to see that it's picked up. And then Showing Time does a national report, and this is what they had to say. They said, the persistent upward momentum we're seeing affirms that there's an underlying demand from prospective buyers. So more people have been requesting to see properties. A lot of that's virtual, and some of it's in person. But just the fact that people are out there wanting to see properties means that buyers are needing to buy houses and are ready to make moves, and we need more inventory. So let me stop my screen share. Was that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job, Amanda.
Interesting.
Thank you. But just a few stats.
It's good to know that stuff for sure.
Right. Well, it's good to see, because I think we all have our thoughts on what's going on, but really seeing it on paper, it's not exactly as dire of a state as I would have.
No, that's for sure. Hey, Amanda, do you have a question? For people that are looking right now, are there like different steps that realtors are taking to ensure the safety of people and stuff like that, as far as, sanitizing houses and whatnot?
Absolutely. Every buyer's different. So I definitely have some buyers that don't want to go into any home unless they've seen it virtually first or decided that it's really one of their contenders. When we do go, we have gloves and masks and Lysol wipes. I ask the sellers to turn the lights on and keep the doors open. And I just ask my buyers to not talk to anything. People that are very uncomfortable just being out in general aren't going to look at houses.
Yeah.
But I think we're doing a lot of virtual showings, and I think it's great. I think this is giving people an opportunity to see the house. I mean, if I were a seller with my house on the market, I would for sure want my realtor putting my house on everything virtually, do a video walkthrough, do a conversation talking about the perks of the house, because it's a way for someone who really understands the house to market the house, opposed to just doing an open house where a bunch of neighbors come by or whatever. And also, I think the people that are looking and calling right now are much more serious. People that want to go look at 100 houses before they narrow down a neighborhood are kind of like pressing pause right now because they're not wanting to get out and be in that many places, which is kind of nice.
I absolutely believe that. I mean, I think that's absolutely true. So
I've been working with, ironically, I mean, given the state of our economy in Oklahoma with both COVID and the oil situation, the buyers that I've been working with the most lately are out-of-staters. And I've got two different couples, one from Des Moines, one from North Carolina. The North Carolina couple, I did a lot of video, FaceTime, showings with them first, and then they flew out here. 40 houses in the last 5 days.
I heard
no
that.
exaggeration. And yeah, that's why I look like hell. I'm tired. So, but we did the gloves, the mask, always took our shoes off, and I carried a bottle of hand sanitizer with me. So just after I opened the door, squirted their hands good, so that if they did touch anything, they were touching with a sterile glove.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and we literally did every showing that way. I only had one seller to say, absolutely not. You cannot come in my house. I'm like, okay. So anyway, and to add to that, we've written a couple of offers and we didn't get either of them. So I mean, that shows there is some competition out there still in the pricing and stuff. So anyway.
Inspections, each inspector is handling things a little bit differently. A lot of times they're asking the buyers to stay home right now, and then they're just FaceTiming at the end, with the report, which none of my buyers have had a problem with at all. I mean, normally they just come to inspection and they get to look around and measure or whatever, but they're still getting all of the details and being able to see what problems or little things are going to be listed on the report. So inspections have been okay. The inspectors are going in with, like, one of my inspectors has like a respirator mask and the other just has a mask. And then closing companies are doing a little different. Some of them will come out and you can sign in the car. I have a closing on Friday, and it's at Chicago Title, and they're just going to call us when the closing room is open. And so the seller or the buyers can go in directly to the closing room that's just been sanitized, sign, and come out, and they'll ask me to stay in the car. So,
and I just did that with Chicago Title last week.
And then the realtor being in the car during closing is no big deal. Like, if they have a question or anything, they can call you, FaceTime you, and really we're just there to celebrate.
Exactly. You've got it done ahead of time. Yeah.
Also, one more thing that has picked up is I have been doing a lot of Zoom buyer consultations for people that I have on my search site that have been kind of looking at properties. I'm reaching out to them and giving them a Calendly link so they can just schedule a time for us to sit down and hop on Oakmar together and see what's out there and really talk about what they're looking for. Because with this summer, and I think the real estate market about to be so much more active, it's really good to like have those meetings right now and get the right searches going, so when they're ready to make a move, they can make a move.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Denise, do you have any questions for either one of us that we didn't cover?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just so anxious to go and move, but I've got to get my house on the market. So I'm apprehensive about that. I'm in that upper level, it's going to take a while to sell this house. So, like I told Amanda, I'm just trying to get it all ship shape. I had a guy look at it, and he said he'd list it for about what I thought he should and he said he recommended putting it on the market in February because it will have a longer time on the market before someone will buy this level of home. So I'm apprehensive because it's Wichita, and I have had bad experiences selling homes. Both times I've sold homes, I've sold one here and one in Baton Rouge, and neither time was good. So I don't like doing that. So I'm just like trying to prepare myself to be depressed.
You know what I would recommend, Denise, is a lot of nicer homes that are going on the market now. People are doing, and some people do this anyway beforehand. I normally don't recommend it because I'm like, depends on the quality of the house. But if you will pay to have a home inspection.
Oh, a home inspection.
A home inspection before you list your house, your realtor can add that to the disclosure. So anybody who might be interested can go through and look at like the exact condition your house is in. And if there's anything on there that you're going to fix, you can say, I fixed this, this, and this. And that's going to put you ahead of your competition, because people are going to be like, this house, the seller obviously is taking care of it, obviously knows what she's doing. This is all the details of the house. And then, you know, it's like a few $100s.
I echo that, Amanda. That's the best advice, I think.
And then that will also help you too, when you do have offers come in, kind of negotiate. It'll tell you what your negotiation wiggle price is, opposed to not knowing, because like normally when you accept an offer, the TRR and the repairs is a whole nother negotiation down the road, and it could end up costing you $20,000 depending on what's going on. So this, at least you would know. It would help you price, it would help you market, and it would help you plan.
Okay.
You know, another just to add on to that, Amanda, I also oftentimes, because appraisals are good for 6 months, also posting or letting them know that you have a current appraisal on the home that justifies the asking price. That right there saves you a lot of time as well. Right. And it just, both of those things, I think, instill a great deal of confidence in the buyer about your property.
Yeah.
And depending on what the appraisal comes in, if you price even a tiny bit below, you can market that you are priced below appraisal, and
it's instant equity.
Prove it. Yeah, it's instant equity. So depending on the personality type of your buyer, you're going to really attract like
okay,
people with that.
Yeah. So
and good news is you don't even have to do any of that stuff. You just tell your realtor and like go drive around one day. That's a pro. And you don't even have to clean. You don't have to clean. Oh, if you have an inspector come over, an appraiser come over, you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to meet them. You just have to pay for it.
Oh, okay.
So you could do that first before like getting your house, your windows cleaned or whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, the windows. You just stressed me out.
I did. Well, I face south, and so it's like a freaking dust storm here all the time. And then it rains and all the windows. I mean, they're clean for 2 days. Right. At least the backside. This is the backside of the house, so it's a mess. But yeah, I'm in a great situation right now because the deck's already been refinished because of hail. The roof is brand new. The dishwasher insides are brand new. I have a new well pump from last summer, and I have a new hot water heater. So I'm like,
write all those things down.
Huh? Write all those things down. I
know. People love new.
Yes, they do.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for hopping on. And I'm going to email this out to a bunch of people who couldn't be here today because of work or whatever.
Other stuff.
Other stuff.
Yeah. Amanda, if our stupid governor locks us down another week, I may be down there where I can at least see people and maybe we'll go look at houses.
That would be wonderful. Good seeing you.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for being here. Debbie, great to see you again. Nice meeting you.
Nice to see you, Scott. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Of course.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for hopping on. Thank
Amanda,
you.
we'll catch up with you later.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.